welcome into the Starting Five podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union, brought to you by Big Time Hoops, right here on the Big Time Hoops Network. I'm Taylor Mannix. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a great holiday, and I know Larry David's going to be pissed at me, but Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2026. It is also a Tuesday, January 6th that I am recording this. Brady King is our interview. The man behind the camera of Big Time Hoops will join me to talk about all things Class A and Class B here in the South. We'll also touch a little bit on some of the teams up north that Brady's had a chance to get his eyes on. We'll also have the college catch-up here, where we hit 5 topics covering all things from the Maine college scene, whether it be kids in college, UMaine college, former UMaine Black Bears thriving in the G League, as we'll get to today. But there's a lot to touch on. It has been a busy holiday season, and I'm ready to get after it with you guys. I hope you're ready to get after it with me. My conversation with Brady is about 30 minutes, so let's see if we can get through the college catch-up here quickly so you can hear that conversation I had with Brady about the high school scene. It was a great conversation. You definitely are going to want to stick around for it and not miss it. But let's start in Standish. Topic number 1 is the St. Joseph's men's basketball team, who had a statement win. And I want to talk a little bit about the big picture, and we'll also hear from Tyler Ackley, who joined me and my brother on the Middays with Mannix and Mannix show. We'll have some snippets from that conversation shortly. But let's start in Standish, because St. Joseph's just gave us a reminder of who they are. The Monks knocked off the Ithaca Bombers 87-70 in the Stevens Holiday Tournament, and this one completely flipped after halftime. Ithaca actually carried a 44-42 lead into the break and even stretched it to 5 early in the second half, but that's when St. Joe's took over. An 11-4 run got them in front, and then the knockout punch came when a 15-0 burst over a 4-minute stretch turned a tight game into a double-digit lead. From there, it was all Monks. The numbers tell the story. St. Joe's shot nearly 67% in the second half while holding Ithaca to under 24% from the floor. That's dominance on both ends. And once again, Davis Mann was right in the middle of it. The freshman earned his 4th GNAC Rookie of the Week this week, averaging over 16 points across the tournament. He leads the Monks in total points, free throws, minutes, and frankly, composure. He doesn't play like a freshman at all. And looking at the big picture, this team went 24-5 last year and was undefeated at home 13-0. And while injuries and a brutal non-conference schedule have clouded the record this season a bit, that identity's still there. When GNAC play opens this Saturday, I fully expect St. Joe's to defend their conference crown with toughness and belief. Let's hear from head coach Tyler Ackley a little bit about this season, as my brother Jeff and I on the Middays with Mannix and Mannix show caught up with him today on Tuesday. Here's Tyler Ackley of the St. Joseph's men's basketball team, the head coach. Here's what he had to say about his group this season.
Yeah, I tell our guys this. I think for me, our record may not be as gaudy as it was last year, but I think the adversity we faced here in the first semester with the level of competition we've gone against and who we've had to force into maybe some spots that they weren't even ready for at the moment and had to grow on the fly. And, for a large part of these losses, although we don't love the record, there's a lot of those games, there's 5 or 6 of those where those are final possession, final minute games where you're taking the game winner or game tying shot and just weren't able to get over the hump and had to learn with some, with a relatively new rotation kind of. We were missing a lot of what led us to the championship last year. And I think, although frustrating and obviously not the way we wanted to start the year, I do think here at the end that experience is going to be really important for us. Now that we've gotten healthy and gotten guys back, I think it's made us a deeper team. And I think it's given a lot of guys experience of being in those final moments. So, if you have foul trouble, if you have things go on as the tournament kind of gets going and the conference season gets going, I think you'll find yourself with a lot more guys that have the ability to go out and execute in those moments. And I thought that's been really huge for us. It's probably been the silver lining of it all, but it's really frustrating more for those guys. I know how much basketball means to a Silvano, to a Remy, to a JP, to a Patia Donato. Like those guys, they love to play basketball. So I think for them to miss any moment, especially, the ones that we look forward to, we made this schedule for a reason, and we felt like when healthy, we're one of the best teams in the country, and we wanted an opportunity to go out there and prove that. And I think although the guys that we did roll out there, I think we certainly were battling in those games and made sure that we left our mark, but certainly didn't get to walk away with the wins that we were hoping for. But now healthy, I think it's been good experience for us. We're looking forward to getting to GNAC play here, and then we have one more non-conference game left with Bates here at the end of the month. So looking forward to just really hopping into GNAC and focusing there on trying to get a second championship here.
The Monks men's basketball team this season is 4-8. They are 1-5 away from home and 1-1. Only 2 home games so far this season. Their next game against Mitchell College on January 10th. It's a 3 p.m. start in Standish as they tip off GNAC play, looking to get back above 500. I'm telling you guys, watch out for the Monks now that they're getting healthy. That is a team that is to be reckoned with. They have a championship merit, and I think as he pointed out, they've tested themselves so much in out-of-conference play that when they get into this GNAC play, it's only going to make things easier, especially getting healthy. Remy Jowani coming back the last couple games has really helped them. He's averaging 20 points a game. He's been hurt, but to see Remy Joe come back and be able to get some points too. He mentioned a lot of the other names. Remy was the GNAC Player of the Year. One of the Donatos there, Wani, was the Defensive Player of the Year. So you have the core pieces to compete and get to another GNAC, and I trust Coach, man. I trust Coach and everybody up there at St. Joe's. I can't wait to see this GNAC play get underway in a couple days against Mitchell. Rooting for you boys up there with the Monks and on the women's side too. I know we haven't talked about a lot of them this year. We'll get into a lot more on the women's side next week. Let's go to topic 2, though, because we got to keep this thing rolling. Don't forget, Brady King's conversation is 30 minutes, so I want to get you guys out of here timely on the starting 5, but we got to tip our cap first to guys with Maine ties who had massive weeks at Princeton. Former Maine United standout and Bangor native Landon Clark earned Ivy League Rookie of the Week after helping the Tigers knock off UVM, that's Vermont. Career highs in points and rebounds, and he led the game on the glass. That stands out for a first-year guard, especially out of the Ivy League. And then there's Will Davies at Saint Anselm. Davies is your NE10 Player of the Week after dropping a career-high 25 on number 22, Adelphi. He played all 40 minutes, shot it effectively, and continues to lead all of Division II in assists. This isn't just production. This is winning basketball for Mr. Davies, and Saco and Thornton Academy fans are very used to seeing it. St. Anselm is 9-3, undefeated in league play, and Davies is the engine that is driving the ship. Let's now jump to topic 3, where conference play is here in Orono, and for both UMaine teams, it's hoping to be a reset moment. On the men's side, the Black Bears did fall 56-51 at Bryant, but there were real positives. Defensively, Maine held Bryant to 33% shooting and under 18% from 3. That's signature Chris Markwood defense for the Black Bears in conference play, and TJ Beal had his best game of the season offensively with 20 points. Maine actually led late before Bryant closed it out. The record isn't where anyone wants it to be, but America East play gives this group a chance to redefine itself, and we always have talked about TJ Beal maybe finding his rhythm offensively in America East play. I think it's safe to say after losing to Bryant, they'll have opportunities against other teams. I expect Maine to redefine themselves, even though that defense is a calling card for Coach Markwood. So I don't know if it's necessarily redefining themselves as much as it's getting their identity back from last year that allowed them to compete for an America East championship. For the women, a 3-game win streak was snapped at Bryant, but the fight was there. Adriana Smith was outstanding with 27 points, 5 assists, 5 boards, and Maine forced 20 turnovers and made multiple pushes, even leading early in the 4th. But despite their best effort, Amy Vachon and company did fall short. But for this women's basketball team, that 3-game win streak really felt like it was a moment of, okay, this is the team that we know they can be, and it felt like Amy Vachon and company are heading in the right direction. The men still, it feels like, have a lot to prove, but for this women's team, they're now 6-9. They are 1-1 in conference play. Despite losing to Bryant, they beat UMass Lowell back on January 1st, 73-65. They will play UMBC January 8th, this Thursday at 6 p.m. Hopefully we'll see if this UMaine women's basketball team can be the team that we think they can be. I think they can compete at a high level for the America East Championship. I think we all believe that too, and I think we're going to start to see that team. But I got to admit, the way that they came into conference play, 3-game winning streak, competing with Bryant, I think this Maine women's basketball team is definitely on a better track. And it's nothing to take away from Coach Markwood and company, but 2-14, losing the conference game to Bryant isn't really where the big deal is. But going up against UMBC on the road in Baltimore Thursday for them, the women are at the pit. This is starting to get to be, we got to see something. UMBC, NJIT, the next 2 games on the road, Thursday, Saturday. I'd like to see the Black Bears at least split that on the men's side. And if Chris Markwood's defense can do what it did to Bryant, holding maybe 33%, 18% from three, I have a feeling the Black Bears are going to win a game against UMBC and NJIT if they play that style of basketball. So both teams still feel like they're searching for their ceiling, but conference play is where that gets answered. And I think for both the Black Bears men and women's teams, we're going to start to see a little bit more of who they are. And I think a lot more wins are to come for both Amy Vachon and Chris Markwood. Let's hit topic 4, keeping it a little bit with the Black Bears, because it's always cool when a familiar name comes back to Maine. Chris Mantis returned to Maine, but was at the Portland Expo with the Capital City Go-Go. He logged 40 minutes, scoring 11 points with 4 rebounds and 3 steals, and unfortunately for him, the night belonged to the Maine Celtics, who erased a double-digit fourth-quarter deficit and stole an overtime win. Two-way player Amari Williams was unbelievable, 33 points and 16 rebounds for the Maine Celtics. One of those nights at the Expo you don't forget for someone like me who does the stats for him, but seeing Chris Mantis shoot the ball, hit the threes, seeing a Black Bear playing at that level, it was inspiring. It was great, and it reminds me that despite the 2-14 record right now, this men's basketball team, as I just said, the ceiling's not been met. They're going to start winning some basketball games, I believe it. Chris Mantis being with the G League too is awesome, and it shows you again the direction of where this team and where Chris Markwood's taking the program. And in the final topic, we close things out with a full NESCAC basketball check-in. On the women's side, the Bowdoin Polar Bears suffered its first regular season loss in nearly a year, falling to Calvin. Still one of the best teams in the country, ranking in the top 25, but a bit of a setback over the break. Meanwhile, the Colby Mules look to get back on track as they beat MIT, highlighted by Katie Olenek, scoring her 1,000th career point. Sorry to mess up the name, Katie. Congratulations, though, on the 1,000th career point. She became just the 20th player in Colby Mules program history to do it, according to their website. Colby did, though, because of a couple losses, fall out of the top 25. Bates and Bowdoin of the NESCAC still in the top 25 D3 hoops national poll. On the men's side, Bates Men continued to kind of announce itself welcoming into the D3 ranks as one of the top teams. They fell to number 3 Emory, but they bounced back by knocking off number 25 Maryville. It was their first ranked win since 2020, and Barbacoa Pui was everywhere. He had 23 points and 16 rebounds in that win over Maryville down at the Emory Holiday Tournament. Bates followed that win up by blowing past Colby to open up 2026. Now league play begins, and the NESCAC is about to get very, very real. So keep an eye on Bates, Colby, and Bowdoin as we head into the NESCAC season. That's your starting 5. Conference play underway, stars emerging, and January basketball is officially here. Brady King of Big Time Hoops will join me on the other side of this break. Stay tuned on the Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Welcome back into episode 4 of Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union here on the Big Time Hoops Network. And as promised, in studio with me now, the man behind the camera lens. You've seen him at a gym near you from Big Time Hoops. It's Brady King. Brady, thanks so much, my friend, for joining me. Usually I'm seeing you cruising the sidelines, prowling around, getting some really incredible shots, whether it's at the Expo for the Maine Celtics or it's on a local gymnasium where you're headed to tonight down in Biddeford. But thanks so much for fitting me into your busy schedule to talk a little high school hoops with us here on the Starting 5, my man.
Of course. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Happy to have you here. And again, just a lot to discuss as we get into the season. It was a little bit of a nice festive fixtures that we had with the tournament. What have you been up to before we get into things over the holiday tour? I know I've been watching Big Time Hoops. You've been a very, very busy man.
Yeah, for me, it's the usual. Trying to get to one game a day when I can, catch 2 different games. So, nothing too special over on this side. A lot of basketball.
A lot of basketball, especially this time of year for sure. And look, let's dive right into that. We're going to open up with the boys' side, then we will talk about the girls and keeping it Class A South, Class B South, a little bit of the North sprinkled in as well for the A sides. But let's start in the boys' realm. And really, when you look at Class A right now, Brady, especially on the boys' side in the South Division, the top 4 teams, and I don't want to exclude Thornton Academy, but we both haven't really seen too much of them yet. We'll get to them a little bit next week. I know you're going to be down there catching them a little bit tonight, but this Sanford, Wyndham, Scarborough, South Portland top four, especially Sanford now at 7-0, Wyndham at 7-1, only lost to Sanford, Scarborough at 5-2, South Portland 6-2. And you and I were discussing this. You've seen quite a bit of these four teams. What has stood out to you early in the season for really each team individually that you've been able to have a chance to see up close and personal?
Yeah, I think naturally we have to start with Sanford. They're sitting at the top at 7-0. They took a trip to Gorham last week, so I was able to catch that one, and started out as a pretty close game, and then as the game went on, their offense was just too much for Gorham. They have such a high-powered offense. They really spread it out, get 5 guys on the perimeter, a lot of ball movement. They're really, really patient offense. They're just looking to get a good shot. It doesn't matter who's getting the shot, but the typical names you would expect are, Dylan Gendron, senior. He's averaging over 20 a game, right around 20 a game. His little brother, sophomore, Luke Gendron, can also fill it up. Really, just everyone on that team can shoot the ball, and that's really their main strength right now.
I didn't know he had a brother playing with him.
Yeah. So Dylan has a twin brother on the team, Caden. So there's 2 seniors, and then Dylan's younger brother, Luke, is a sophomore. So there's 3 Gendrons on the roster. Yeah,
3 of them. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Going down, we'll just go in order here of the MPA standings right now. Wyndham is in second. I've had a chance to watch them twice. They had a game at the Expo a few weeks ago that I was at. And that one, I felt like Portland kind of controlled that one for the first 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, I think Portland had 2 points. And I think Wyndham's experience just kind of showed through in that moment. Everyone knows AJ and Tyree. It feels like they've been there forever at this point. 3rd straight year being like major contributors on the team. But that team, I think they're going to go as far as some of their role players will take them. In that Portland game, Landon Wyman came up clutch a little bit down the stretch. The most recent time I saw him was against South Portland. And in that particular game, Sean LaBelle was the one who kind of caught fire from beyond the arc. So they were just feeding the hot hand. But Tyree and AJ are going to get open shots for that crew. So it's just going to be are they going to be able to knock down open shots, and that's going to be as far as they'll be able to go, I think.
Yeah, and you bring up Portland. I think that's another place to go with it, Brady, too, because we won't talk too much about them today, but at 4-3, they do have a win over the 6-2 South Portland Red Riots. They have a quality win, as you mentioned. You saw them play with the top. Do you think maybe Portland, I know they're not necessarily in that top 5 category, even with Thornton Academy, who I know we won't also touch too much on today, but it feels like Portland, Thornton, even Westbrook as well, Kennebunk at 5-2. These teams, despite not being at the top with those 7-0, 7-1, 6-2 records, they got game. And I think you're right to point out that Portland isn't someone that should be slept on, especially with a win over South Portland and the way they showed they can compete with a team like Wyndham, who is championship merit.
Absolutely. I was incredibly impressed by Portland. I felt like this year they were playing with a little bit of pace. They were letting the guys kind of get the rebound and go a little bit. Freshman Ephraim Luseko, if you've been paying attention to the AAU scene, you might know who that is. He plays with the XL Portland. He can really get to the rim. He's a really good player. He shares the ball. But their offense is really built around Lucas Legage. He's catching the ball a lot around the elbows, looking to attack. His mid-range game is on point. So they've got a lot of depth. There's a couple of guys that I haven't even mentioned, but they've got a couple of bigs. They've got some real size. I know one of those kids down low, his name's Elvis. He's only a sophomore. A lot of people might not know about him, but he's 6'6". He runs the floor. He can shoot the ball. So I was really impressed with what I saw from the Bulldogs. I think that they could go on a little run and maybe catch some teams off guard.
Yeah, and I think that's something to watch too. But to get back to those top 4, and again, I can't wait to see where the Bulldogs go. I think you're so right to talk about them and highlight them in the way they've played against tough competition, despite being 4-3 early on in this season. But the Scarborough Red Storm and the South Portland Red Riots sitting there 3-4. What has stood out to you, Brady, when you've been able to catch these teams in person? Why are we seeing these 4 teams, and especially these 2, Scarborough and South Portland, emerge as our top 4 after the holiday break?
Yeah, so both these teams actually have big games tonight. Scarborough is hosting Wyndham, and then South Portland's traveling down to TA. So I'm hoping to catch probably the second half of that after my Biddeford Noble doubleheader. But with the Scarborough Red Storm, they've got a really deep group of seniors. Everyone knows Adam Fitzgerald and Carter Blanche. Those are the two main scorers. Those guys have the ball in their hand a lot. But Leighton Garapi, I think his name's Leighton, the youngest Garapi, who's a senior right now, he is he's really important for them down low. He gives them a little bit of something else that I think that they're missing. He's got a little bit of that tough edge to him, and I think that he's actually going to be a really key player for them. Off the bench, they have junior Carter Ryan, who hit 9 threes the other day, finished with 27 points. Just X factor off the bench. So that's a really strong core group of seniors that they've got there. South Portland, on the other hand, it's got 2 freshmen starting for them. So it's a little bit the opposite end of the spectrum. Of course, they have Gabe Jackson and Darius Johnson, the 2 seniors who everyone knows. Darius actually tipped in a game winner at Chevrolet, the game I was at earlier this year. And I believe the other night he had something like 5 or 6 in-game dunks.
I did see that.
You don't see that around here often, so that caught my eye. I believe he's playing at the top of their zone, so he's getting a lot of steals and leaking out and getting some fast break dunks there, which you like to see. But those freshmen, specifically, I'll talk about Lionel Despacho. He's got the green light, man. That kid can fill it up. There's no bad shot for him, whether he's 5 feet beyond the arc, off the dribble, hand in his face. He's got the guts to take the shot, and he can also get to the rim a little bit. But he's a smart player. He makes the right plays out there. He'll find his teammates when they're open. So I do like what I'm seeing from the Red Rides as well.
Yeah, you're right to point out kind of the yin and yang of the senior freshman balance that you see at South Portland. Credit to Coach over there for getting it done. It feels like year in and year out when we look at the South Portland Riots boys team, right? I mean, coaching matters over there, and they got one of the best in the state too. Speaking of coaching and opportunities and things right here, Chevrolet has done a pretty good job this season, at least at getting their first big win against Westbrook. Westbrook 4-3. Chevrolet knocked them off the last time they were out 59-48. Again, first big win. We want to touch on them because, again, we won't touch on a lot of these teams, but to see Chevrolet at 9 right now, they are still in the playoffs as of now. Teams not qualifying right now. Gorham at 3-5, Noble, Biddeford, Deering, and Massabesic all off to tough starts. Falmouth, Bonnie Eagle, Chevrolet rounding out 11-10-9. What do we make of the Stags? Because there's a ton of talent. Kalon Watkins is obviously one of the better players in the state, especially in terms of underclassmen and points per game. What is there another gear Chevrolet can get to? And do we think that Chevrolet, when it's all said and done, will be pushing into that top 5 with the teams we see? Because I know 3-5 right now is not where a lot of preseason pollers and preseason fans thought they'd see the Stags. But again, I don't know if we've seen the best of them. You've seen them in person. What say you, Brady?
If anyone hasn't had a chance to check out Chevrolet's play, I really highly recommend it. Kalon Watkins is, the biggest show in town right now. He's throwing down a couple high-flying dunks a game. Like you mentioned, I believe he's averaging 22 a game, the leading scorer underclassman in the state right now. But if you haven't been to their games, maybe you wouldn't know. They've actually been missing some key players throughout this early part of the season. I'm actually not entirely sure if Jamison Fitzpatrick has played at all this year. And I think if he ends up returning, he could be what that team is missing. Just a big post presence down low, but also just a little bit of that veteran leadership that someone who's a senior, who's played at neutral sites, played in big games, just to add a little bit something to the team. I also know that AJ Latour has missed a few games this year. He's a big 6'4", 6'5" forward for them. So when they get all their guys back and clicking, I don't think this is the last we've heard from Chevrolet. I think they're going to go on a run here and pick up a lot of consecutive wins.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you because I think that once they start to figure it out and kind of get their roles right, it does feel like the sky's the limit. There's no ceiling to this team in Chevrolet, and I know they've started slow, but this shows you again the depth of the Class A South division, which we knew was going to be thick and hard to get through, but now you're seeing it this year. It's a team like Chevrolet with so much talent who in a year past in AA might not have a losing record, does right now because of the competition that they've had to face early and so often here in Class A South. I do want to switch it up, though. Let's talk about Class A North, because up in the North, there also is some really, really competitive basketball going on. Camden Hills 8-0 at the top of the North Division. Edward Little in second at 6-3. Brunswick 6-2. Bangor at 500, 4-4. Mount Blue 5-2. Lewiston rounding out your top 6 at 4-3. Skowhegan also over 500, at number 7 at 5-4. And Brewer, led with Ollie Higgins, is 2-6, but still in 8th place. Oxford Hills, Hamden Academy, Messalonsky, and Mount Arad on the boys' side not qualifying as of right now as we enter 2026. But let's talk a little bit about Edward Little, who we've seen already this season put up some big wins. They have lost to Camden Hills. They've lost to York twice as well, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Also a very talented team. But what have you seen from this Edward Little team, Brady, especially in a game where they lost at the buzzer to an 8-0 Camden Hills team, clearly one of the top contenders in A North?
That was a great back-and-forth game. It was the season opener. It was the first game I was at all year. I believe it was kicked off on a Thursday. And it went right down to the wire, just what you'd expect. Nolan Ames filling it up. I think he had 27 that day. Over on the Edward Little side, their number one scorer this year has been Cole Maywin, the younger brother of Ding Maywin, who's their phenomenal standout player last year. I think Cole averaged somewhere around that 10-11 mark last year, and so he's just about doubled his output. And he's got everything you'd want in a player. He's all around. He can score at all 3 levels. He can drive to the basket. He's got a nice 3-point shot, and he's always making the right plays. He'll pass to the open shooters. Cedric Makalele is their defensive key. He always takes the toughest matchup. And one thing I noticed is that you'll always hear him out there. He's always talking to his teammates. Just, like almost like a Marcus Smart type of player. Just that it's really important to a winning culture, I think. I most recently saw them play against Skowhegan, and their offense was on full display. They lit it up. They scored a lot of points that game, and they looked like a team that's going to be a problem come tournament time.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And another couple teams that you got to see up close and personal that are a little bit in the middle of the pack here. Brunswick at number 3, they're not really in the middle. They're 6-2. I'm interested what you saw from them. Their only losses so far to Edward Little and to Bangor, but the other team you saw them play was a Lewiston team right now who has some pretty big wins. They beat Bangor. Their only losses now in the 3, Mount Blue, Oxford Hills, and Brunswick in the game you saw. But what did you see from these two teams, specifically the Dragons, who sit at 6-2? And I know Edward Little and Camden Hills are the teams that are talked about, but you got eyes on that Dragons team, and I don't think they're one that many should be sleeping on.
It was a great matchup. Tell you the truth, I actually didn't know too much about their personnel going into that game. Senior Logan Gray really caught my eye. He had 21. There was one point in the game where they had a steal and they're breaking out on the fast break, and then he rose up for this monstrous fast break dunk, and I didn't know he had that in him, so that definitely caught me off guard a little bit. That was pretty sweet. But they've got a couple other kids that can score too. That specific game went into double overtime. It went right down to the wire. Actually, Lewiston hit a really clutch 3 in the corner. The number is escaping me who hit it, but that sent it. That was in single overtime to send it to double overtime. So that was probably the best game I've been at all year. Switching over onto the Lewiston side, Zhao Sampson was their lead ball handler that game. He was getting to the rim. He actually had the assist kick out on the game-tying 3 in overtime, so he's someone that caught my eye. And then the other player I would say would be Grayson Bernard Jr. He's maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he can really score the ball. He's a good shooter. He's just looking to get to the mid-range, get to his spot, and pull up. So I'd never actually had a chance to watch him play before, but he really caught my eye as a key player for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see just where that B North goes. I do think there's some favorites, but Brewer and a couple of those other ones are right in the mix.
Absolutely. I haven't had a chance to watch Brewer play. The 2-6 record is a little surprising to me, so hopefully that they can get their form going here come the second half of the season.
Yeah, anything else to add from that group?
I got to see Hamden Academy play earlier this year at Oxford Hills. Right now it looks like they're still out of the playoff picture, but senior guard Sawyer Worcester really controls the game. He's got a three-point shot that is pretty accurate. So I think Hamden's a team to look out for. But most of the coverage that I do is in the greater Portland area. So unfortunately, some of these teams I just haven't had a chance to watch. I know Bangor's had some big wins. They actually beat Brunswick. So Harry Fitzpatrick's been putting up some big numbers for them. Nate Grunkelmeyer is a sophomore. I keep seeing his name listed in the top 5 underclassmen scores. So, the Bangor Rams got some players up there too.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And Bangor has always been one of those programs that's proud and has a little bit of prestige to it. They find ways to get into state championships. Now, we're a little bit pressed with time, so I will just touch on the Class B South stuff. I want to just get your quick thoughts because right now in B South, York's 8-0, Madomic's 6-1, Lake Region 6-1, Levitt's 5-3, Poland's 5-3, and Yarmouth 5-3 to round out your top 6. But specifically, real quickly on this, the Lake Region boys, we'll get into a little bit of Reese McDonald and York another time here on the show. And, of course, those mid-coast teams with Mason Wynn leading Madomic Valley we've talked about before. But I haven't had a chance to hear about Lake Region. Tell me about them when you saw them. Tell me about them from when you saw them, because 6-1 wins over Poland, Wells, Grey New Gloucester, Cape Elizabeth, Yarmouth, Freeport, only lost to 8-0 York. This team seems like they might be a dark horse to watch here in Class B South.
Yeah, the Lake Region Lakers are a legit team. I got a chance to watch them last year a few times, and they were young, so I had a little bit of high expectations this year, and they've met them absolutely. They've got 2 big kids down low. Cooper Smith is 6'7", and he can shoot the ball too, so he's a good player. And then they have Braden Wilson, who's like 6'4", 6'5" forward, who's really athletic. So between the two of them, they've got some real size. And on the perimeter, they've got senior guard Jacoby Bardsley, who can shoot. He's a good ball handler. And then a junior and senior pair of brothers, Matt and Shane Plummer, who are just athletes. They play soccer, they play baseball. They're diving all over the floor. They're giving you what you want. So I liked what I saw from the Lake Region Lakers. There's no doubt about it. I actually, the game I was at was a rival win over Grey New Gloucester. Gym was packed. Student section was deep. It was cool to see.
Yeah, and it's really nice because we know there's tradition there. Paul True, one of the great coaches here in Maine on the girls' side, they've had tradition for a long time. Nice to see the boys having a little bit of a moment here this season. Let's go to the girls' side, though, speaking of that, as we wrap up this conversation. Again, Brady King of Big Time Hoops with me, talking high school hoops as we enter the 2026 new year. In Class A South, Cheverus 8-0. Shocker, Billy Goodman and company running the show in Class A South. Sanford are 5-1. Biddeford 6-2. Welcome to the big class. We all wondered how that would go. It's going well for them. South Portland are 5-1. Westbrook are 5-2. Gorham 5-3 rounds out your top 6. Wyndham is above 500, and Thornton Academy are 4-4 here in Class A South. But one storyline we're watching tonight, as Cheverus girls are playing, looking to go 9-0. Kylie Lamson 16 points away from 1,000, and Brady, they're at Gorham tonight, 6 p.m. A lot of eyes will be on that one. We'll see if she can get to 17 and break that mark, but even if not, she'll at least make a dent. And in the next game, we can promise after this one, she will break 1K if she doesn't today. So Kylie Lamson on 1,000-point watch here tonight in Gorham.
Absolutely. I'm a little bummed out that I'm going to miss out on that, but good luck to Kylie tonight. Hopefully she can get her 1,000-point. She's an incredible player. Everyone knows that. But I kind of wanted to focus a little bit on freshman Kristen King, who I've seen coming through at big-time events and whatnot over the last few years, but she's everything you would want in a guard. She can score, she can shoot, she can handle the ball. She's a really good player. And then switching over to the South Portland girls team on a similar note, they have a freshman, Lucy Heel, who's a similar mold of player, a good jump shot, great handle. And then she's complemented by junior guard Annie Whitmore. So both of those teams kind of have a star freshman and a star upperclassman guard, leading their scoring attacks. So both of those teams are 2 teams to look out for. And then the other team that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about was Sanford. I had a chance to watch them play. Sophomore Molly Puffer is one of the best players in the state. There's no doubt about it. But they also have some other players there. Ella Teteris has a nice 3-point shot, and Paige 70 is a guard that can fill it up. So the Spartans are definitely a team in A South to watch out for. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and again, 5-1, sitting behind Cheverus. Their only loss came to Cheverus, like South Portland's only loss also came to Cheverus. Another team in there, though, that we didn't mention, number 3, Biddeford, you're going to get eyes on tonight. They're 6-2. Their biggest win right now has come over the Gorham Rams, and their only 2 losses combined 7 points to Sanford, who they lost to by 2, and to the defending champion South Portland Red Riots, who they lost to by 5. So Biddeford already showing signs after making a state championship last year, losing in gut-wrenching fashion to the North there at the Cross Insurance Arena. They're back. We wondered how Biddeford would look in Class A. You're actually going to get a look at them tonight to probably get a better idea of just how this transition's gone. But I will say, Brady, without even seeing them right now and getting eyes on them, it's incredible to see that Biddeford and Coach Parody have made this jump in almost a seamless transition, and to know that against the top 2 teams in the division right now, they've only lost by a combined 7, and it's early season matchups. It does feel like we can't put a cap on just how good Biddeford could be by the time we get to tournament time, because by the time we're going and playing these games and games that count at the Expo and at the Cross Insurance Arena, it feels like Biddeford are going to be playing their best, and I don't know who's going to want to see the Silva Sisters when they're a little bit more mature, a championship in B-South under their belt from last year, and being able to utilize that experience and apply it here in Class A, and knowing they're only 7 points less than the top 2 teams, and it's this early in the season. I'm really excited to see how good Biddeford and Coach Parody can get, and I bet you're excited to be able to go down there to Biddeford Socko there, as they call it, to catch that game.
Absolutely. You mentioned the close matchups. They really didn't graduate too many minutes from their team last year. So there's, usually when you have a young team, the next year that you don't consider them a young team, but I still kind of consider them a young team. So I am definitely excited to watch them in action tonight.
Yeah, and I can't wait to finally get some eyes on them too, but tonight's game should be a good one. Biddeford again 6-2, wins over Kennebunk, Thornton Academy, Gorham, Bonnie Eagle, Marshwood, and Falmouth, and a lot of good games remaining on the schedule. They'll play Westbrook, Wyndham, they'll play Scarborough as well down the stretch, and they have another game against Sanford and Cheverus slated, so you have to wonder, could those be the moments we see maybe this Tigers team really take over Class A South after being Class B last year? And speaking of Class B, there wasn't really a changing of the guard there in terms of Gray New Gloucester and Oceanside. Both on the girls' side are off to great starts. G&G, Gray New Gloucester, the Patriots, 8-0. Oceanside 7-1. They're only lost to Lawrence, who we'll discuss in a minute. But they look like the favorites. I'm not going to tell anybody to sleep on Greeley at 7-1 with a win over a strong Poland girls side that's 5-2 in Class B South. But this Gray New Gloucester and Oceanside team, who you've seen on 2 different occasions, really are starting to feel like and round into possible favorites. Again, no disrespect to the Greeley Rangers. They're going to be in the mix too. But with a Breen sister still at Oceanside and the history of the Gray New Gloucester girls, it does feel like these 2 teams might be the ones to beat.
Absolutely. The Gray New Gloucester girls, I had a chance to watch them play at Yarmouth a few weeks back, and they won that one really convincingly. Junior guard Abby Steele is one of their headline players. She can do a little bit of everything on the floor, but same with their other senior guard, Ella. Her last name's escaping me right now, but they have 2 key senior players. Ella Kennedy is her name. Sorry about that one, Ella. But they also have a freshman who I'd never gotten to watch play before, Bryn Gilmore, and she completely took me by surprise. She was unbelievable out there, breaking it on the fast break. She must have had 15 points that game. So another key freshman to look out for in the state is Bryn Gilmore at GNG.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot of freshmen. It's something that's been a theme before we get into, Lawrence and, of course, Maddie Provost, who's not a freshman, quite the opposite here. She's a Miss Maine basketball favorite in her senior year. Is that a theme you've been seeing this year? Is the youth movement, maybe a talented freshman class, underclassmen class on both the boys and girls side? Because it seems like on both sides, girls and boys, we're hearing about freshman impacts everywhere.
For sure. There are freshman impacts everywhere. This freshman class is one of the deepest ones since I've been around doing this for the last 4 or 5 years. And, I couldn't tell you exactly what that comes down to, but, I think it's a little bit of everything. The AAU basketball scene in the state has picked up a little bit over the last few years. And then, of course, you've got kind of just like the top-down effect of having some Maine players really do stuff on a national scale. I think that really inspires the next generation, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of that. Going back over to the girls' side, I got to see Lawrence play twice. First time was against Oceanside, so I'll talk a little bit about Oceanside here. Renee Ripley was hitting the 3-ball. She was bringing the ball up, taking care of the ball, and pretty much every time down the floor they were getting a post touch for Olivia Breen, letting her work a little bit in the post. When they double, she'll kick it out, she'll make the right play. But if you're just going to have single coverage on her, they'll let her go to work, and she'll cause a lot of problems down there. And then on the Lawrence side of things, Maddie P, everyone knows about her. There's no shot on the floor that's a bad shot for her. I mean, seriously, it doesn't matter if she's doubled. It doesn't matter if, she's 30 feet away from the basket. She'll let it fly, and she'll hit it too. Just last night I was at their game against Hamden Academy, and she hit one shot that was legitimately 10 feet beyond the arc. It was pretty impressive. But the story of that game was really the Broncos. They stormed out the gates. They were up early, and they never looked back. It was a really well-balanced attack. They've got a really deep team this year. Senior Grace Labrie down low was causing Lawrence some problems in the post early on. And then after in the second half, Maddie Provost actually rolled her ankle at one point and checked out of the game for a while. So the Broncos were able to maintain their lead and pull out with a victory in that one.
Yeah, and they're now sitting 4th in Class A North. 7-1 are the Hamden Academy Broncos. Only loss right now is the Camden Hills, who's 6-2. Their only losses to Edward Little and Oceanside. Edward Little's 8-1. Their only losses to Mount Ararat, who's 7-0. So the A North division, on the girls' side is very interesting. Bangor also at 7-1. On the girls' side. A couple teams that we're used to seeing at the top, though, over the past couple seasons that are struggling this year that maybe you're going to hear is surprising. Oxford Hills, Ella Pelletier graduation, they're 1-7 this year, and I think another one team that's been hit by graduation was Brunswick, who's 3-5 this season. Two teams, though, that the last couple seasons have been kind of the regular appearances in the playoffs this year. Both those teams a little bit down, as we've now seen the rise of a Camden Hills, Hamden Academy, and even an Edward Little this season on the girls' side, even though Edward Little, to be fair, has been competing for a couple years. This is great to see them now maybe reaching some full potential. Where in Class B North, Lawrence at 6-2 is 6th. Their losses, as you mentioned, Brady, to Hamden Academy most recently. They did beat Oceanside, but they also lost to Oceanside in that one. The top teams, though, in B North, Old Town, Ellsworth, Gardner, Herman, Mount Desert Island, MDI, and Lawrence rounding out your top 6. Presque Isle, Coney, and John Baptist on your final for qualifying teams. That is quite a stretch of regions there. Presque Isle, I mean, think about this. Like, this is crazy, Brady. You're going from Presque Isle to Lawrence to MDI to Herman to I mean, that is quite the class in Class B South. That's quite the region.
Absolutely.
Like, there is all over the state of Maine there. From Presque Isle all the way to Lawrence, like, you're making quite a trip.
I think I'm putting a lot of miles on my car, but then I think about some of these county teams and the trips that they have to make, whether it's down to even Orono or something like that. That's 2 hours one way. So.
They have to go to Brewer. It says Ellsworth and Brewer, it looks like. They have to go to Old Town, too. So it looks like their furthest trip south for Presque Isle is going to be to come play in that Bangor area. But that's still, it's about a 2-hour ride. It's far. It's tough, man. Well, Brady, anything else that we want to touch on here today while I got you in here? It's been a pleasure to pick your brain. I know you've been around the state so much seeing all these games, so it's been nice to actually hear your insight on all the stuff you've been seeing, and I'm sure everyone listening is going to appreciate it too.
I feel like we kind of touched on everything. Thanks for having me in here. I always love to talk about the Maine hoop scene. I've been around it for the last 4 or 5 years. I never played basketball at a high level, so my insights are not always spot on, but I'm trying my best.
Yeah, no, you do fine, my friend. And of course, everyone can catch you on the sidelines. Where can people see you on social media so they keep following your stuff? And where are you going to be this week?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Brady King Video. If you see me at a game and there's nothing there, check out Big Time Hoops Maine. You'll see something over there, no doubt. This week, I do have a pretty big schedule lined up here on Wednesday, tomorrow, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, which you should be. The game.
Yeah, this will be out today, Tuesday.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, so the game tomorrow I'm going to be at Wednesday is Spruce Mountain versus Madison. A little bit of a class, what is that, C North, I think. I think we're talking C North there, so it's a good opportunity to see this Class C.
Little C South action.
Oh, C South. Okay, there we go.
Spruce Mountain, by the way, 9-0.
I cannot wait to catch them. I've had that game circled. And then Thursday, I've got TA again versus Sanford Boys. That's a huge one. And then Friday, Coney versus Madomic. So this week is packed with big matchups.
Yeah, and of course, that Coney Madomic game is going to be really fun. Carter Braithwaite versus Mason Wynn. How can you not get excited for that?
Exactly. Coney's a team that I've had circled on my calendar. I really want to get a chance to watch them play, so I'm gonna make it happen Friday.
Brady King, again, of Big Time Hoops. Thanks so much for joining me today for episode 4. Appreciate you, brother. Safe travels whenever you go.
Appreciate you, Taylor.
Thanks again for listening to the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast. We'll be back next week with more coverage of Maine hoops and everything from the college to the high school scene. I'm Taylor Mannix for Brady King. Thanks for listening here on the Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union.